Thank you very much. That's awesome. Awesome to be here. Awesome to see all you ladies and also the gentlemen that came for this talk. It's a giant pleasure to be discussing this subject. I changed a little bit the title of my presentation. I hope not to disappoint you. So, women and men in tech. 5 things I learned from masters that I believe I can share with you and that might help careers and people that are around you. Thank you very much for mentioning my grandfather. I came from a family of 11 physics, and in this family, my grandfather was mentioned here, but my grandmother, she is also physics, and she is 86 and still go every day to university, still do her research, publish books, and do lots of things. So since I was a kid, I never thought about being that much difference between men and women on the professional perspective. So, as I mentioned, my grandfather and my grandmother used to work together on the same university, so both of them were physics. Then my mother and my father, both of them were physics as well, and worked together. So for me, since the beginning, I couldn't really see a problem or something that we could not do that men could. Of course, there are lots of things and lots of changes, and things are getting better. Sometimes it doesn't have the rhythm we would like to, but things are changing. There's one story my grandmother told me. The first time she got financial support for research in Brazil 6 years ago, she needs an authorization from her husband to get that financial support. So she needs this paper signed. If he doesn't sign, she wouldn't get the support. So some years ago, we were on the Women's Day, and she said, be patient. Things are changing, and I hope we won't need Women's Day anymore sometime soon. Maybe not as soon as you want, but we are going toward that direction. So I'm not here to blame or to complain about anything, but to share what I believe can be useful for you all. Of course, I will be referring to some things I believe we face more as women or lacks on behavior that might hold a little bit our career, but everything here is targeted for men and women. Oops. I swear we tested this, but no problem at all. Okay. Was your magic eyes. You just looked and it's worked, so thank you. Here are my networks. If you want to interact with me, feel free to LinkedIn or Twitter. So here are some networks. So when I was, I love to read. I'm not sure if you all read this book. So did you? Who read this book? A very geek book that inspired Google, that inspired Babel translator in the beginning from Alta Vista and several other technologies. If you haven't read, unfortunately, I will tell a little secret from the book, but it's worth reading. So the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is about life, the universe, and everything. And they are building a supercomputer to answer this question about life, the universe, and everything. And they spend time, long time, to answer this question. And when the supercomputer finally can answer this question, it's a silly answer. And then they start thinking about how much time we spent on building this computer, and it gave this silly answer, 42. And what's the problem? The problem is the question. What is this? Is this a question? Life, universe, and everything. Is this the question? Is there an answer for that? So the first thing is, What's our question on career? What do we want on life? So the first thing I'm going to do here is to remember that, you know, in the best case, 20% of our life will be spent working, considering we might not work when we are 80, and we might not have worked when we were a child, and we might work only 40 hours a week. In this case, it would be around 20% of our work, of our life. So I am changing the book here for life, career, and everything, instead of this very wide question about the universe. I'm trying to focus here on our career. So, when we are planning or thinking about our careers, as women, we have special considerations on our careers, and I had on mine. So when I was a teenager, I saw my parents traveling for conferences around the world. And I said, when I look at that, I was jealous. I cried because they were spending, they had a research collaboration in Orlando, in US. Can you imagine that for a child? My parents is spending 2 months in Orlando, and I'm stuck in Brazil. So without them, and jealous about the place where they were. So for me, since I was a teenager, I always thought I would like something that I could travel for free. So when we are thinking about our career, each of us has a unique cloud tag that we should think about, that we should really go and write what is this cloud tag, what we want. Each of us, we want different things. Some of us might want to get rich. Some want to work in a company that wants to offer a better health care for the world. Others might solve conflicts. Others might, you know, work with anything, or propose, or money, or flexibility. I want to do different things. So just as an example here, so travel. If you want to travel, what kind of career you are planning? You might be a scientist, or you might be a speaker and try to apply to conferences, or you might work with sales and have this opportunity to travel, or you might say, I don't want to travel. Travel for me is vacation. So then you would think differently your career. Another thing, like family time. That's one thing I considered. Since 2004, I'm working home office. I have 2 kids. One is 11 and one is 13. So for me, I love to work home office. And I don't want never to need to go every day to a company. Maybe when, not never, maybe when they are even bigger. But for now, that's my goal. More than money. I want to be home office. And I know other people that would say, I would never do home office. I can't do that. So that's some things we could consider. And when I think about IT career for women, that's one of the things that I think, you know, it's crazy. I can work from Poland. I can work from Brussels. I can work from Brazil. I can work from the beach, literally, if I want. And that's not true for every career. So when I think about women in IT, I'm thinking about this giant opportunity, which is a career that allows us to work by home if we want, to work in whichever country we want. It's an area where we need more professionals than we have. That's a great opportunity for women and for men. But especially if we think the world is not fair, it's good if we are in an area where we have more job offers than people to fill them. That might be a smart choice. Or maybe we want to work with innovation. So it's a different kind of company that will work with innovation, or flexibility, or stability, or money. So my first thing here from, my first lesson here from the book is to make the right question. and create your tag, and then try to create a little roadmap. Yara, this is silly. I'm not creating a roadmap for my career. We do that for many other things. Why we are not spending time to think about what we want for our career? But Yara, we are talking about a 30 years plan. I believe there is no other place better than a Roche conference to think about planning something for 20, 30 years in advance. And when I'm speaking about planning your career, is not that you will define your final destination now, but at least what's the next step. So if I want to be a speaker, what are the skills I need to learn? If I want to do home office, what is the, what are the opportunities? So at least to define certain restrictions and achievements that you would like to do on short term. So from the book, what do you want from your life, career, and everything? Build your tag, your cloud tag, and try to do, or to at least think on a roadmap. And read the book, because 5 little books, very fast and awesome, and many other lessons from that book that I think frequently. The second one, I don't know, I haven't really learned that from him, but as the phrase, it's famous from him, I just think it's worth mention. But we are used to think about value and money, and we used to think that our value is the amount of money we get from a certain thing. But that value doesn't belong to us. When somebody is paying us, that's their value. Our value is what we are delivering to them. And if we focus on what we are going to get, our value will decrease. As more as we can offer, as more we value. So when we are thinking about relations, or when we are thinking about how we do things on work, or why somebody will be volunteering to be here at this conference, that's about value creation. And when we think today about negotiation techniques, everybody is thinking about how to grow the pie. Instead of splitting the pie, we want to increase the pie size. It means create value and then share. So if we, as individuals, as professionals, we think about every relationship on how I can create value to that person. I don't know, maybe if I create value here at Roche, and they see I have value, increase the perception of my value, I will get better and better opportunities. So don't focus on what we are getting, but focus on what it's our ability to deliver. As more as we can deliver, more we'll get, for sure. But nobody beside us can train and focus on our ability of delivering things. So, on the new economy, when we think about, a click, a like, a comment, how much does it value? Today, of course, when I click on any advertisement, somebody is getting $1 or 50 cents with my click. And I didn't get anything. But my click value is 50 cents. Somebody's getting there. That's the new economy, right? They create value that not necessarily is money. So if we think, when you have a challenge on work, and you find that article, that tutorial, or that talk that gives you exactly what you want, that's something free. But what's the value for you? How do you think about that person that wrote that? If you need something, if you need a consulting, or, what's the value of that person? Or, when I'm here at the conference, or I finish a training on data science, and I post that to my social media, how does people see me? What's their perception of my value? just by publishing something. Or even, when I teach something important to someone, I am creating value. So, value creation. I think it's very, very important that all of us, we think about how we can create value on every relationship we have and how we can do that. So targeting, it's not something that you will be willing, it's not just to help others, but really it's to increase our value. Any guess who are these guys? The Beatles. In this moment, they were not the Beatles yet, right? They were training. They were in Germany playing hours and hours and hours with a very little money. But they were training to be those guys that were playing for a huge crowd, right? And there's another book that I really like. It's not a super, it's a bestseller. It's a very simple book, but it's called Outliers. And they discuss a lot on how we can get really good on things and how we can master and how we, or sons and daughters, can be outliers in the society. And they show lots of information, but a theory that we need, with 10,000 hours of practice, we will master anything. And they show several examples on, why Bill Gates has completed his 10,000 hours before others. Why Steve Jobs, what was his family, his mother, opportunity, why he had 10,000 hours before others, and why Beatles had, and several others. So, again, I would recommend that we find something to master on it. And it's not something aleatory. It must be something that meets our goals that we said before. So if I want to be a speaker, or if I want to travel, I need to be good on English. Or if I want to work with innovation, I need to know about that, and so on. So we need to master on things that meets our first goals. And here it's a point where sometimes I see we as women, especially on certain phases of life, we end up by not investing the same amount of time that other men are spending. And there's another TED Talk I put in the end that shows why some women, they say, we get out of the table too soon on certain moments of life. So when I'm getting married, some women would, just stay very away from their job for an entire year. Or when they are just thinking about having kids, they might say, I don't want that promotion because then I will get pregnant, and I can't just get pregnant. After 1 month I had the promotion, and things like that. And she said, sit on the table until the last moment. So keep doing that and master on a certain field. I love this other crazy guy, and when I was 17, I went to an exposition from Salvador Dali, and I liked his paintings, but there was lots of history about him, and there was something that really made me think when I was there. He had all his sculptures, and there was a session on the exposition where he had miniatures of all his sculptures. And why did he have miniatures of his sculptures? So when they asked him about that, he said, now I'm getting famous, and my art, my sculptures, they are going all around the globe. And I need to preserve my history. I'm doing that as a backup, right? So if not, my work will be around the world, and we'll never know everything. It was a different era, right? There was no picture, there was no YouTube to record, you know, the process and how it was and everything. He couldn't do a making of. So he did that. And here it's another point where I think it's something important, like what does the internet tell about any of you or about me? What's the impression? What's the history? Who is the person responsible to write your history on the internet? Should we let this for others to write our history on internet? So what does your LinkedIn say about you? That's clearly professional and it's easier. But what does your Facebook say about you? On Facebook, are we I'm just a mother, a wife, a friend, a professional? Who I am on Facebook. So that's true for everything. That's true for blogs. That's true for Medium. That's true for everything that's on the internet. And I see, especially, I have lots of friends, and they are like, why I'm going to post things about my job on Facebook or on other social media? Does this interest for someone? Yes. People want to know, how are you professionally? People get proud of you when they know you succeed on something. And that's the history you're going to write. So I believe we should take care on that. It's very easy to be not there, to not be on the internet for a certain reason. I don't feel comfortable or you know. But today, that's our responsibility, to write our history. So I would say, don't wait for other people to write your history. And start now. Let the world know you are here at Code4Life, that you are worried, that you want to learn, that you are someone that likes innovation, you want to learn something, you know, and write your name on the wall. So, another great book, and now going back to the women and men discussion at Brave New World. Who read this book? This is the best in the world, in my opinion. One great, great reflection about that, and it's curious because on this book, there is no difference between men and women. There is no mother, there is no wife, there is no love, and men and women are basically the same. And there's one thing important on Brave New World, is that if you are on the top of the pyramid, if you are, you know, very special, very smart, and all that, you are unique. And as more you go down on the pyramid, or, you know, what they consider as the hierarchy, if you are going to work on factories or things like that, it might be 5,000 of you with exactly the same genetics. So they're all the same, they wear the same, and so as better you are positioned on the society, more exclusive you are. As more normal you are, it's lower position on society. So I love this book as well. And this remember me from this picture, right? This picture, we have several people that looks like the same. And we just have one that is different. And some months ago, I was invited, I do lots of things with IBM, and there was a vice president that were going to Brazil, and they called me and said, Yara, we would like to schedule a meeting. He wants to know what's going on in the Brazilian community and all that. I read his name, I saw him on LinkedIn, and when I arrived on the meeting, I looked to him, and I never imagined I met him before. And he said, I know you, Yara. I looked like a little uncomfortable why he knows me, and I didn't know him. And he said, I remember you from JSF, And then when, he started talking and I was like, can't understand. And then in the end I remembered, that yes, he wrote a book and he worked at Oracle and all that, but I couldn't remember him. But why could he remember me? Because of this. Because, probably I was one lady in between of 50 men. So when we see how many women speakers we have in a conference, of course people will remember me when they see, if we talked or anything, because there are few women and lots of men. So one thing here is that being fewer women doesn't need to really scare us, doesn't need to be seen as a disadvantage. It's the other way around. When, the law of market says that, if you have few and, you get more value. And now, not every company, but every smart company wants to have more women, more diversity. And we must find a way to see that as an opportunity and not as a problem. So, when we want to be remembered as women, how do we want to be remembered? So I have a 13-year-old daughter, and this discussion is something that passed through my mind every day on how I'm going to do that, how I'm going to teach her, or what kind of woman she will be. And she always asks me, Mom, why don't you put more makeup? Why don't you, put a skirt and go work? Or, why don't you get more fashion when you are working? And it's complex for her, but I always think how I want to be remembered. I want to be remembered as the beautiful lady or the smart woman. So, as women, when we see this word on IT with lots of men and few women, how do we want to be remembered? We need to express our opinion. We need to participate on the discussion. We need to master in certain things and, bring knowledge to the table, not to be shy, and several other things that might be hard when we are one in between 20 men. But if we have our goals clear and we know how we want to be remembered, do you want to be remembered as an excellent tester or as a great project manager, or how do we want to be remembered between that? What's the image we are going to build? So you can proudly remember this lady, Nobel Prize and the Polish Marie Curie, and think about that. So just to finish, I have 1 minute 24, but I would love to share with you 2 TED Talks that really make me think a lot and I believe change my behavior. One is why we have too few women leaders. And here she discussed lots of things about how are we negotiating our salary, or she tells things like when men finish university and they go to the market, if they see the requirements and they feel they fit like 50% of the requirements, they say, I can do it. When women doesn't feel 20% of the requirements, they don't apply. Of course, we won't get it if we don't apply. So she does lots of very deep discussions. And the second, teach girls bravery, not perfection. Here, they show lots of studies that are very interesting as well. So they ask women and men to answer, to do tests and things like that. And men are doing and not worrying that much if they are perfection. And lots of women would be writing, erasing, writing, erasing, writing, erasing. And if they are not sure, the thing is right, they could deliver it blank. So they had very good discussions on these two talks, and it's just 15 minutes. It's worth to watch. Thank you very much.